40 people, maybe 5 people did that. People just.
So nice of you.
It was a straightforward question. People don't want to answer, you know. Only 5 or 6 people did that. But the ones who did a very good job. Did a very good job. So we'll talk more about the exam next week. But at the moment, let's try to finish off what we started. Now, just Monday, I finished with something known as zero beta portfolio. If I ask a question like, if you remove the risk-free asset, does CAPM exist or doesn't exist? I've asked this question before. Is risk-free asset essential for CAPM to hold or not? Does the theory of CAPM make any sense without risk-free asset? The answer was Monday. That yes, it does. All you need is a zero beta portfolio. Zero beta portfolio has total risk, but has no systematic risk. And we showed the return on that asset is the same as a risk-free asset. But nobody pays you any return for unsystematic risk. That can be diversified away. Now, risk-free asset has no risk at all. No systematic risk and no unsystematic risk. But this guy has unsystematic risk, so has total risk, but no systematic risk. And because systematic risk is everything, he pays the same return as a risk-free asset. Now we showed that through equations last time. Now the question is, question number 2 is with exam. At least in theory, can a zero beta portfolio exist? In real life, we don't know. In real life, there are too many things outside. Too many things going on, too many assets, too many markets, too many investors, too many suppliers, too many buyers, very active internet, web. There's too much going on outside. Real life, if you go look for it, can you find it? I don't know. But in theoretically, is it possible for a zero beta portfolio to exist? No systematic risk. Beta is 0. But there is systematic risk. That means there is total risk. Can such a thing exist? The capital market line, not the security market line. What's the difference between capital market line and security market line? If I ask a very short question, part A of a question, tell me the distinction between security market line and capital market line. What is the difference? What is the same, what is similarity, and what is the difference? That's a good question to think about. What is the difference between capital market line and security market line? What is the similarity and what is the difference? Similarity is what? See? Yeah, I know that. Similarity means same, but what is the similarity between the two? I'm not asking for an English lesson. I want you to tell me what is the similarity between security market line and capital market line. You can't answer that question in the exam that way. It means the same. Both lines are describing the relationship between risk and return, right? Both lines are showing the relationship between risk on the horizontal axis and return, expected return on the vertical axis. And the difference is what? Difference is what? That's the similarity. What is the difference?
One is for beta, one is for the total risk.
Pardon?
One is for beta, one is for total risk. Measures total.
One is security market line measures the relationship between total risk and return, and capital market line does that. Security market line does between systematic risk, which is beta, and return. It's relationship between risk and return, but one is with beta, security market line, and one with total risk. That's the difference. And security market line is CAPM. So over here, we have capital market line, we got total risk, and expected return. And you see this graph before. This is the efficient frontier, when there's no borrowing and lending. And this line, if you borrow or lend, then this line shows up, and market portfolio is at N. That's the risk-free rate. Risk-free rate is that rate on the risk-free asset with there's zero beta and zero systematic risk. So total risk is equal to 0, right? And that's why this guy is right here. If you draw a straight line from here, see, if you draw a straight line from here, you draw a straight line from here, RFC, there is going to be assets on this line. There are assets everywhere. On this line, on this curve, that's the market portfolio, which is on the line, CS security market line, and also on the top of the efficient frontier. Now, I told you the bottom part of the thing doesn't really exist, or doesn't come into play. Nobody is going to be any of this part of the curve simply because for same risk you get higher return by being up there. So after the minimum risk is right here. Anything below is basically, from investor's point of view, a waste of time. But if you draw a line and you hit a point like here as Z, right? There is an asset right there. There is an asset Z sitting at that point, right? There is an asset sitting at that point. What return is this asset giving? There's an asset sitting at that point on this frontier at point Z. Drawn straight line from risk-free rate all the way across to C. There's an asset that crosses right over here. What return is this asset giving just from the graph? Same as risk-free rate. But if you draw a straight line from here, which I have not done, you can do. If you draw a straight line from here and go down, it will hit a point over here. Right? This is total risk. This is zero. But over here, it's not zero. Right? So what is it saying then? This guy is giving the same return as a risk-free rate, but has total risk. Whereas a risk-free rate has no total risk. What's going on then? This guy is giving the same, this chap, this Z over here, is giving the same return as a risk-free rate, but has a positive total risk right here. Whereas the risk-free rate sitting over there has zero total risk. This guy has more risk than the risk-free rate. Has more risk than the risk-free rate. Total risk. But is giving the same return. Logically, how is that possible? If I ask you a question, another good question, and you think about that, explain the logic behind that. Explain the logic behind this point and that point. How can they give the same return and one guy has total risk and another guy doesn't have total risk? What must be missing then? What be missing? For these two guys to give the same return, RF, but one has total risk and one has no risk at all. Logically, reality, I don't know. Can it happen in reality? I don't know. But logically, how can you explain that? Both assets, the beta must be zero. Systematic risk, which is the most important risk, must be zero for both. It doesn't matter what the unsystematic risk is, because that can be diversified away. Risk-free asset has no risk, zero beta and zero unsystematic risk. This guy has total risk, but giving the same return as a risk-free rate. So that means his beta must be zero. The real dangerous risk that is associated to any risky asset, it must be zero. If you remember the CAPM equation right there, right? Any asset that beta is equal to zero, this part disappears. That means the return on that asset must be equal to risk-free rate. Any beta, any asset A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to whatever alphabet you want to go to. If the beta is equal to zero of individual asset, the return must be equal to the risk-free rate. Basically shows again the importance of systematic risk. The systematic risk is everything. Total risk is not the concern, or unsystematic risk is not the concern. The concern is the systematic risk. According to CAPM, which is this equation, everything depends upon that. The relationship between this guy and this guy is positive, dictated or controlled by this variable. Anything that has a 0 beta, and if you go back, all along this line, any asset sitting on this line from here to here is giving the same return as the risk-free rate, right? Which means what? All of these guys have 0 betas. All of these guys, if you go by this equation, the beta has to be 0 for the two rates to be equal. All of these guys have 0 betas. But we pick Z. Why? Why didn't we pick C or somebody over here? We pick Z. Because it's on the efficient frontier. We pick the guys on this frontier. So logically and theoretically, it is very possible, just from the CAPM equation, it is very possible that to find a 0 beta portfolio. Any asset or portfolio that has 0 beta is going to have the same return as a risk-free rate. Because investors should not care about unsystematic risk. A well-diversified portfolio will get rid of the systematic risk. What you have to worry about is the systematic risk. And that equation clearly shows that. Relationship is positive between these two guys. And that's all they try to show, CAPM. That's all they try to show. That's all it is, it's concerned, is the beta, the systematic risk, the tsunami that hits every market, which comes every now and then, not all the time. The unsystematic risk happens all the time. Which company messed up today? Which CEO messed up tomorrow? Which tax regulation changed what? Which regulation changed what? Where did they start a war? Those are all unsystematic risks. They affect few companies here, few companies there, few industries here. But systematic risk is a market risk. It hits everybody. It's the wave engulfs the whole island. That doesn't happen much. We lived through one of the biggest systematic risk, market risk. We've gone through from 2007 to 2011 with one of the largest crises the world has seen. It may not happen for another 20, 30 years. I'll be dead, most likely. You guys will be old, like me. You can look back and talk about this to your grandkids. Bore them to death. And we picked this because the gentleman said it's on, yes sir.
Doesn't that also mean that there must be an asset with negative beta? Because there's a return less than the risk-free rate?
There shouldn't be a return less than risk-free rate. If it is, it should not be. Return less than risk-free rate, you mean down here?
Yeah, but I mean the efficient frontier is there. You said that it doesn't exist, but when you draw it like this, then there is an asset with a less return than the risk-free rate.
Well, yes, theoretically you can find it, but the beta shouldn't be negative. It should be same parallel line. Okay, lots of text. Let's do the last thing about CAPM before we start efficient market. So we removed one assumption. About the risk-free rate. And I've always asked questions about that. Not always, but I like asking questions. The CAPM changes, and can you guys handle the CAPM without the risk-free rate? Now, tax is another thing. Tax plays a very important part of people's life. Because it's something we have, like they say in the US, the two things you do in the US, you pay your tax and you die. You cannot escape death in the US, and you cannot escape tax. Same thing in the UK. Inland revenue is not as strict as the American tax department, but it's something similar to that line. Now, CAPM assumes there is no tax effect. There is no taxation. In other words, investors do not care if they get dividend or they get capital gains, whether they make through dividend or capital gains. Because almost all the countries in the Western world and a lot of the emerging markets, tax is different for dividends and for capital gains. I said this before. Dividends are taxed at the income tax rate. If you have a 50% tax rate in this country, if you make a salary of £150,000 plus, you have 50% tax rate. Half your money is gone, income tax immediately. So if you get any dividend, tax 50% gone also. Whereas capital gains, the highest capital gains in this country is 22% or 23%. So if you make capital gains, then you get taxed at 22 or 23%, depending on what tax bracket you are in. Now, as ordinary citizens, we care about after tax income. You may, on paper, you may be making £100,000, but at home, you're taking 55,000. 40,000 goes on income tax, 5,000 goes on council tax. So you take home 55K, so 45,000, 45% is gone. You may think, you get 100K, but you don't get to spend it. Highest sales tax of 20%, you get hit harder when you go buy your clothes or something. So tax do exist, and capital gains and dividend are taxed at different rates, then the model will change. Because now people will care what do they prefer? Do they prefer dividend or capital gains? If I am on a high tax rate, I don't want dividend. I'd rather have capital gains. If this lady is in a low tax bracket, then she prefers dividend. She pays less tax. Since dividends are taxed at a higher rate than capital gains, then people in the rich brackets, rich guys on the higher bracket, they prefer capital gains. Like I told you Monday, in this country, if you sell your house at a higher price than you bought, you don't pay any tax. That's a real estate law. That's just the law they have. So if you sell your house 50,000 more than you bought 5 years ago, you keep the 50K free of tax-free. None of the European countries have that, unless you're a landlord, unless you're renting out flats. You've been a landlord for more than 2 years, then they hit you with income tax and all that. But if you're just mommy and daddy selling their house after kids have grown up and gone and you want to buy something smaller, you use that money to pay for the new house. So tax do make a difference. Now, investors judge the return and risk on their portfolio after tax, depending upon if you're a rich guy in a high bracket or poor guy in a low bracket. After tax, the game changes, the equation changes. Right. That's the beta. That's the risk-free rate. That's the same expected return. This is the market risk, market price of the risk. Expected return on the market portfolio minus the risk-free rate. And then we got this guy. That's the tax rate. T is a tax rate between dividend and capital gains. And if T is positive, what's true then? T is positive, what's true? If the tax rate on dividend is higher than the tax rate on capital gain, that means T is positive, right? The difference between the two. Suppose that's true, and that is true in most countries. This is a reality in most countries. So T is positive. So that means people on lower income bracket, people on lower tax bracket will prefer dividends. People on higher tax bracket will prefer capital gains. Right? Now, if T goes up, what happens to expected return? If T goes up, what would you expect? Do you expect the return to go up or go down? As an investor, what would you demand?
Higher return. You would demand higher return.
Lower returns.
Higher return.
Higher returns. Why would you do that?
Because you're paying more taxes.
Exactly. If the tax rate goes up, you will demand a higher return. Because you're paying out more in dividends. You're paying out more in capital gains. The gap is getting bigger. Especially if you're on the low tax bracket, you will definitely want higher return. If you're in the higher tax bracket, you would again want higher return. That is true if this is true. And the tax goes down, then you may expect lower returns. That's dividend yield. What is that? That's dividend of market price divided by price of stocks, and the stock yield of stock I, the same thing, divided by the price of stock I. Because dividend makes a big difference. If you remember, and I should not believe this in the future, if you remember, price today is equal to dividend Do you remember that from 3 weeks ago? The dividend make a big because account efficient market, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. The price today is based on that formula. The price today, the price of British Airlines at 11:25 London Times, the price of British Airlines stocks is based on the future dividend it will give. That's the fundamental value of the stock. When you calculate the value of a stock or bond by these formulas, you are calculating the fundamental value of the stock. If you read a newspaper or magazine or journal article, especially journal articles, and for your dissertation or for your assignments, and you see somebody talking about the price deviates from the fundamental value of the stock, or price is the same as the fundamental value of the stock, they mean that. When you measure the price of the stock today based on the future dividend, discounted value of the future dividend coming back to today, and you find the value of the share, you are basically measuring the fundamental value of the stock. That's important. And because it plays a big part, and tax rules, it plays a big part, dividend becomes a very vital part of the game. Corporate governance is all about dividends. Corporate finance is all about dividends. Which company pays and which company don't pay. Health, sign of healthy. If a company pays dividend, they're showing sign of healthiness to the market. That's good symbol, that's good from that point of view. If companies don't pay dividend, it could be a legitimate reason. It doesn't look good to the investors. Demand goes down, price goes down. Equation 6 shows the expected return is affected by both the beta and the dividend yield. Both the tense and the beta makes a difference. Equation 6 shows both of them make a difference. Okay, we removed one assumption, risk-free rate. It made no difference to the CAPAC. We showed that. It is very possible a risk-free beta, a zero beta portfolio does exist out there somewhere. And if you include that in the CAPAM, then the CAPAM doesn't change at all. So if I ask a question, is it possible to have CAPAM without a risk-free asset? You say yes. And this is the explanation. You must also show if a zero beta portfolio does exist or not. Okay? Now, if I ask, if you remove the tax assumption, does it make a difference to the CAPAM? The answer is yes, it does. Equation 6. And now, investors will hold diversified portfolio that resembles the market portfolio, except they will be in favor of shares in which investors have a competitive advantage. If you're in high tax bracket, you want capital gains. If you're in low tax bracket, you want dividend. So some rich guy in a 50% tax bracket, and looks at company A, and company A do not pay dividend much, would he care? No, he won't. He's not concerned about dividends. He wants capital gain. Somebody in low tax bracket, 25% tax bracket, 22% tax bracket, looks at company B gives dividend regularly, capital gains may not be that big of a problem, may not be that big of an achievement, they will want B. So if I put this equation in the exam and say stock A pays dividend regularly, stock B does not pay dividend regularly, investor X is in higher tax bracket, investor Y is in low tax bracket. Can you explain to me logically who would invest where? And or even better, you are a broker, and investor X and Y has approached you wanting to invest in the stock market, and you have two stocks in front of you, A and B. A pay dividend regularly, B don't pay dividend. What advice would you give? What advice would you give? I want that equation and that explanation. Why would you give what advice? Okay? You will tell the low bracket guy why to go to A, and you will tell the high bracket guy to go to where the capital gain is higher. If that is true. If that is true. Everybody happy? Any questions on CAPM you can handle, no problem? Ask me if I care. Okay. Let's do something controversial. Efficient market hypothesis. One of the most controversial theories in finance and economics. It has been studied left, right, and center. Right from the 1960s. Human behavior finance, corporate finance, and so many dissertations are done every year. This year I supervised 10 dissertations in the summer, and 3 of them are doing efficient market. In China, in UK, blah, 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 stock market, bond market, you name it. PhD students still do dissertation efficient market. Because it is not, there's no answer to this. There's a theory, but there's a theory, there's a very set theory, but is there answer to this? What it says, efficient market, that security prices, which is share prices, we'll talk about the market, stock market, share prices reflect all available information. Quiet, please. And adjust very quickly to new information. So, that's today. Can you see this? And that's tomorrow. Future. All information is here. And the current price, P naught, includes all that information. Private information, privileged information, company information, political information, any information. So prices today, British Airlines price today at this time, 11:35, has all the information that's available. And if something new shows up, this is tomorrow, if something new shows up here, midday, some new information, say I dash, some new information, this price, as it's moving along towards the future, will adjust to this information and then move along. It will change. P1 is not equal to P naught. Prices change, but as the price moves from today to tomorrow, any new information that comes, it will adjust very quickly. So it includes all information that's available today, and at about 12 o'clock or 12:30 or 1 o'clock, when new information in the market hits the market, the prices will adjust very quickly to that. It will change, but it will adjust very quickly to that. So what? What is the premises? What is the backbone of efficient market? First one, a large number of investors. A large number. Maximizing analysis, value, security, each independent of each other. A large number of investors playing the game. Buying, selling, analyzing, looking at the market, absorbing the information. Not just 4 guys or 5 guys or 6 guys. World population is 7.2 billion. Even if 5% play the market, that's a huge number. That's a huge number. Lots of assets, but lots of investors, all trying to seek maximize utility. Remember, maximizing the satisfaction. And finance, satisfaction comes from highest return. All using the information available. And here's the big one. New information regarding securities comes to the market in a random fashion. What does random mean? New information that comes to the market, information that will come in 20 minutes, 2 days, 1 hour, 47 minutes, 3 months, comes in a random fashion. What is what random means? When people say, oh, this is all random, come on, this is all random. All luck, good luck is all random. It just happens. You cannot predict, you cannot forecast, there's no pattern. There's no pattern. It's not like going to the toilet when you have to go to the toilet because there's a pattern to it. It's just random. It's unpredictable. And that's important. Profit maximizing investors rapidly adjust security prices to reflect. So moment information is released, all these guys adjust the news very quickly. The brokers, the investors, the buyers, the sellers. So in conclusion, in an efficient market, price and return reflect the right risk. The price and return reflects the correct risk. Higher the risk, higher the return. Lower the risk, lower the return. Going back to CAPM. Price reflects the correct risk. Return reflects the correct risk. There's no mistake there. Okay, two dimension. The two dimension. The type of information. Does every information has an effect on the stock? Which information is available? All information may not be available. Lots of things we don't know. But is it important? And which information has an effect? Every information is not going to have an effect. And that's the game of the brokers and investors, to assess which information is going to have an effect. We getting hit by news every day. Look at CNN, BBC, whatever. So we do the radio on? Which information is available? The speed at which the new information is incorporated into price. That's important. How fast information is reflected. Information may come through, say something important comes through. How quickly does the market react to that? Which information is important and how fast do the market adjust to that? That's the core of efficient market. Which information is important to which stocks and how fast does the market react to that? According to that, not all information is important, but the important information, the market reacts to it very quickly. The adjustment takes place very quickly. The turnover rate is so high, the adjustment takes very quickly. Two theories. Two theories are the backbone of the efficient market hypothesis. People who are doing the efficient market hypothesis assignment. Random walk hypothesis. French guy. Anybody can me pronounce that?
Bachelier. Bachelier.
Thank you. 1900. He's dead now. He was an engineer. And he was plotting, he was, in those days, they didn't have any computer or iPad or laptops. In my day, they didn't have that. These things are new. I remember when the fax machine was available. In those days, he looked at the French stock price every day. The stock market has been there for hundreds of years. We talked about that. He looked at the Paris stock price movement every day. Every day he would take the price and make a graph. On a graph, he would, he had the time on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis, and he would put, and he noticed there's no pattern. Absolutely no pattern. And this guy, like we all notice now, came and said, these things are random. Because they are random, they cannot be predicted. You cannot tell me the price of the British Airlines stocks at 2:30 in the afternoon today. Or tomorrow morning when the market opens. Those things are not, it's almost, if you predicted it, it's a pure guess. It's impossible to predict. He said, it cannot be, this guy said, it cannot be predicted. He was the first one to come out and say that. Of course, in those days, number of investment was very low. Only big companies did investment. People didn't have the money to invest in the stock market. Most people didn't know about the stock market. It was a small volume of trade, and mostly done by companies. Then this guy, who got the Nobel Prize in 2 years ago or something, he came with a fair game model. Current market price that reflect all available information about a security. The expected return based on this price is consistent with this risk. In other words, all information is embedded in that, and this reflects the right price and the right risk. the return based on this risk, return, how do you find return? From the price, okay, somebody tell me how to find return?
P1 minus P0 over P0.
P1 minus P0 over P0, as the gentleman said. The rate of change. Is the rate of change the price? Rate of change the price. PT minus 1 divided by PT minus 1. That's all it is. Price tomorrow or price today multiplied by minus price yesterday. Or another way to do this is PT minus 1 over PT minus 1. That's price to minus the price in the last period divided by the price last period. That gives you the rate of change of return. Actual return. Capital gains return. Actual, not expected return. Actual return. The reality. If you take the British stock BA stock price today at 11.45, 11.45? Yeah, 11.45 minus the 11.45 price yesterday divided by the, it shows you the 24 hours change in the price. That's the rate of return. That's the capital gains return. This is what investors want. This is what investors want. And he said, because this thing today, this thing includes all the information from IT. This includes all the information IT1. They are the right price. That's the right price. Hey, that's the right return. And because it includes all information, it is associated with the consistent with the risk. This guy talked a long time ago. In between, people played with the theory, the psychology and all that. This guy, who's still alive, arrogant as hell, very rich, professor in Chicago, University of Chicago, professor of finance, University of Chicago, extremely good teacher, very good presenter, I listened to him.
So you're just jealous?
Very. Extremely. Smart guy like him, Nobel Prize, 1.5 million pounds. And he came to Cass Business School in London to give a presentation after he won the Nobel Prize. Boris Johnson, the mayor of London, was there and all that. He charged £250,000 for 1 hour speech. That's more than Clinton charges, ex-President Clinton. You give 4 speech, you got £1 million. And a 4 speech, 1 hour, 4 hours of work in a year? Who is not jealous? So, of course I am. So, expect return depends on its consistency. Now, Pharma, his main contribution is that he divided this hypothesis into three subgroups. The 3 forms of it: weak form, semi-strong form, and strong form. He said all that is true, but it depends upon 3 formats. The market can be weak form, semi-strong form, and strong form. Of course, this is a theoretical concept. We'll talk about the reality in a minute. Theoretically, he said there are 3 forms of efficient market: weak form, semi-strong, and strong form. In the weak form, price reflects all past information volume. So, this is the past. This is the past. This price today includes all that. All the information that these guys had, all the information that these guys had, I minus 1, I minus 2, what all the information these guys had, this and this is reflected in here. All the path. Yesterday's prices are reflected in today's prices. Day before yesterday's prices are reflected in today's prices. Going all the way back to whatever mankind you were going. Prices information and volume of trade. How much stocks were bought and sold in London stock market or New York stock market is included, the fact of that is included today. All the previous movement of the prices, all the previous volume of trade, all the information from previous is included in price today. That's the weakest form. That's the weak form says that. Today's prices include all the information from past prices. Semi-strong, reflect all publicly available information. The newspapers today, the annual report of the company, the CNN news, the text reports. What is the CEO saying publicly available? All the company reports, all the information about the company is reflected in that P&L. And the strong form, which doesn't exist as I'm concerned, all private, all public, and all private information, including inside information. What's the inside information? Anybody know? What's the inside information? What is insider trading? Anybody heard of insider trading? What? Non-public? Insider information, of course, is information just within the company that people don't know about. The managers know about it. The CEOs know about it. Company bosses know, but the public doesn't know. Insider trading is using that information to manipulate the market, like the lady said. Insider trading is the CEO or the managers know something about the company that nobody else knows in the world, and they use that information. They use that information to buy and sell stocks at different prices. Insider trading is against the law in this country and most Western countries. I think also in a lot of emerging markets, so India and all that, insider trading is against the law. Company managers or CEOs cannot use information they have that nobody else does to make money off it. You are not allowed to do that. They cannot give that information to anybody either, including their brother-in-law or brother or mother or somebody, so they can manipulate. It happens. People do it. Come on, you have information that you know tomorrow at 9 o'clock when the stock market opens, your company's stock will be up by 25%. Or will be down by 25%. Suppose you know that your company has screwed up, and tomorrow, when the stock market opens and news is released to the public, your company, the stocks will get hit by 25%. Or there's something good about your company. You're an oil drilling company and you just found oil in the North Sea, and you will release the information Tuesday morning, and you know the market will explode when they hear that. You know that. You cannot use that information to manipulate the situation. You cannot give this information to anybody either. This is confidential. Once the information is released, then you can play whatever you want to do. But till then, you cannot do that. And if you do insider trading, you go to jail. Go to jail for a long time, especially in the US. Rapists and murderers will come out of prison before you do. I guarantee. People have gone to prison for insider trading. They do stretch of 10 years. They don't put you in some. If you haven't made much money, maybe a small jail or something. If you made a serious amount of money and you pay a serious fine and you go to jail for a long time. Ivan Boschke did 25 years. He went to prison in the 80s. He just came out. He was insider trading. He was fined $25 or $30 million, which is the amount he made by insider trading. He had to pay all that up and go to jail at the same time. 25 years is a long time receiving money. Anyway. Okay, in this graph, that's the weakest form. All public information, all historical prices and returns. Then semi-strong, all public information, and then all information is strong form. Notice the strong form includes the semi-strong and the weak form inside it. And the semi-strong includes the weak form inside it. The name of the game is to test which one exists. And that's, a lot of theses do that. They test for efficient market, at least the semi-strong. This is difficult to test. It's semi-strong in Chinese stock market or whatever stock market they want to play with. There are different ways to test, and we'll talk more about that. So know that each successive form includes the previous one. So they are within the group. So what does that mean, weak form? No investor can earn excess return by developing trading rules based on historical pricing or return information. What is that supposed to mean? Can you look at the price yesterday and make money off that? Can you look at the price movement of the, what this says, you cannot look at the price movement of a stock for the last few months and think, right, tomorrow this thing is going to go up. There's no connection. There's no correlation. There's no correlation between price yesterday and price today. There's no correlation between price at 9 o'clock and price at 4:30. Things change. It's very random. You cannot use previous prices, series of stock price, British Airlines, IBM or whatever, and make a forecast of what the price will be tomorrow. Prices may be constantly going up. Say, during the heyday, security prices follow a random walk. So on the average, there's no correlation between them. There's no correlation between price at this time yesterday and price today. They're two different prices. There's no correlation between price this morning and this afternoon. People have done research with high frequency stock market prices. High frequency. Every minute takes data. Live data collects every minute. Minute by minute stock prices. 1201, 1202, 1203, 1204. And there's no correlation. Sometimes price stays the same. Sometimes it changes. Now, if price is going up, and you think, oh my God, price is going up and up and up and up, it will go up tomorrow also. Very possible. Very possible it will go up again tomorrow. But by how much? The name of the game is not just going up or going down. It's also by how much. Return comes from that. That is very difficult to predict. It's a lucky shot to do that. So the practice of using past patterns in stock prices to identify future pattern in pricing is not profitable. That's the weak form of efficiency. Okay, 10 minutes.